Hello, everyone. This is Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor apparently gets outdone by his friends in college football bets. Today, we're talking week 6 of the 2021 college football season. I'm your host, Professor Sides. You can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. With me today are my co-host, Cousin Jared, who went 10-9 last week to bring his season record to 38-28, a very good 58% on the season. Hello there.
Good evening. Good to be talking with you as always. And yeah, very, very excited about that 10-9 record last week, especially kind of after how everything else progressed seemingly as the night went on. I was very happy with 10-9 for sure.
I hear you there. With us also is Jack, who went 2-2 last week. That brings his season record to 11-9. Also a profitable season so far for him. Hello to you as well.
Profitable was news to me, Professor. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the official podcast of New Mexico State football.
Yes, absolutely. And as the unofficial podcast of New Mexico State football, we will be closing out the podcast covering them as always because we love our New Mexico State, whatever they are.
Why?
I don't even know what their mascot is.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
We talk about them every week.
Well, they are the Aggies, so I approve.
Oh, there you go. Right. I should have known that. My model picks suffered another losing week last week. That brings me to 10 games below 500 for the season. Thankfully, that's only 2 losing weeks in a row, not 3, right? 3 is an official losing streak. So we're going to avoid that by getting lots of winners this week. As always, the picks will be posted and tracked on Twitter, the Google Sheet, and all of my picks, including those for MLB and NFL, have their own Google Sheets. They're also tracked on BetStamp, which is a free bet tracking app. Links are in the description below. If you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, rate, leave a review. We truly appreciate all of those things. And a quick note before we start the show, I have enough data this season to feel confident about tiering my picks. I started doing that with baseball towards the end of that season. I gave that a test run last week, making another set of adjustments here. This week, I think it's good to go. So all this will be laid out via the tracking mechanisms I just mentioned. For the purposes of this recording, it's broken into 3 categories: the leans, the likes or the standard picks, and the loves or the best bets. So I've got 5 of those best bets today, along with a bunch of standard picks that I'll call out as we go. So again, that'll all be laid out in the sheet and BetStamp and Twitter. We're going to kick things off with another round of the good, the bad, and the best. Cousin Jared, let's start with you. What was good about week 5 college football?
We kind of touched on it there in the open, but I went 10-9. For me, that was a very good thing for Saturday. I'm not going to pretend like I'm heavy into the gambling Twitter or anything like that, but some of the people that I listen to, yourself, Bill Connolly as an example, everybody just kind of fell completely apart in the afternoon. And I mean, my picks did as well. I did not do well in the afternoon, but somehow I was able to salvage a 10-9 record on Saturday, which kind of seeing all of the carnage around me, 10-9, I don't think has ever felt so good. That was the good thing for me from Saturday.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that 10-9 is something to be proud of with how crazy last weekend was. Jack, what about you? What was good about last weekend?
It was actually news to me that I still have a profitable margin on the year, which is you cannot complain about that.
Not at all.
The best thing about this week is that you do not get penalized further for being really wrong about a game. I went 2-2, and none of my 4 games were even close to landing in the opposite direction. Like all 4 of my picks were decided basically like right when the game started. So at least I had nothing to worry about in either direction.
Yeah. For me, what was good, again, same story as last week, was the morning slate of games. By the mid-afternoon, I was sitting at 6-2-1. That was fun to watch that unfold. We had all the fun apparently in the morning, as Cousin Jared already mentioned, falling apart there later. But it was good to start off with. There's no reason that should happen. I have no thought that there's a morning or afternoon or anything edge. It's just kind of random occurrence. It was just back-to-back weeks, but it was good to start off on the right foot. And it was a lot of fun to start the day at least before things went crazy. And speaking of crazy, on to the bad. Cousin Jared, what was bad for you last week?
I'm going to read from my notes here because I want to really, get the message across at what a bad beat this was. So I had the under of 63 on the Temple and Memphis game this past Saturday. So to set the scene, it's 27-23. I have an under of 63. I'm looking great. How is there going to be 13 points scored in the last 2 minutes and 35 seconds of this game? Temple has the ball. They're ahead by 4. They have the ball at midfield. They have a 3rd and 6. Memphis has one timeout left. A first down ends the game. A punt, for my purposes, probably ends the game here. Memphis gets a 53-yard touchdown pass with 2 minutes and 35 seconds left on 3rd and 6. I immediately text everybody in the group and say, we're on bad beat alert, guys.
Yep.
So they scored a touchdown. They kick off. I'm hoping, I knew it wouldn't happen, but I'm hoping Memphis says it's a 2-score game. As soon as we get in the field goal range, we kick the field goal and then go for the onside kick, because we just want as much time as we can to get that last touchdown there. Of course they don't. They go 75 yards in 2 minutes and 5 seconds and put the total at 63. And to add insult to injury, they go for 2 and put the total at 65. It was an awfully bad beat. I couldn't believe it. Anything besides that 53-yard touchdown pass there gets me the under, and it doesn't happen. So yeah, one of the worst beats of the season for sure.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Jack, what about you?
Look at this cute little bulldog behind me. How can I possibly be mad at this little Georgia bulldog? No, my righteous anger lies with Arkansas. I had them. I took a decent number of points, thinking like, oh, a top 10 team against Georgia. Like Georgia will win, but they'll keep it respectable, right?
And you got a good number too, because early in the week when we record this, the number was plus 19, and that number trickled down. People were betting on it. So you got a good number too.
Yeah, I needed double that number. So how good could that number possibly have been if I needed it like that again?
I always joke about, closing line value, right? I'm not saying it's meaningless. I think it's one step above that, whatever that is. To me, the closing line value there is just reassurance that other people lost money with you. Is really all that is. Like, that's all it's saying. Like, yeah, you got a great number, and all of y'all lost. It didn't matter what the number was.
Shame on me though for believing in an Arkansas team.
I mean, I think
that's on me.
But we did talk about this last week, right? With both them and Ole Miss, that they had a chance to really climb in the rankings, and neither one of them really put up a great fight.
And there goes that chance.
Yes, there it goes. For me, I mean, it was Baylor. They looked really well to start the season. It just completely falling apart on the road in Stillwater. We talked about not really knowing what we were going to get with Oklahoma State. I feel like we knew what we were going to get with Baylor, and I think we were completely wrong on that. They looked lost. They looked like they did not. I don't know if they didn't show up or what it was. The first half was just pitiful. To me, it was everything. It was the play calling, the execution, just name it. And Baylor struggled with it. And it wasn't necessarily one of my best bets from last weekend, but it was one that I really thought they would at least hang in. Had a chance even at the cover at the end. So, I mean, it was kind of a testament to just sheer luck and goodwill that it almost got the cover. As bad as they played, ended up, losing by 10 and a game that I don't think they even deserved to be with it down.
The touchdown pass at the end of the first half was brutal for Baylor's chances that game, because then they're playing massive amounts of catch up, and they showed that they were not interested in playing that kind of game on Saturday.
They weren't, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they come out this week, because do they bounce back at home against West Virginia and look more like the team we thought they were, or do they look kind of hungover from the beating that Oklahoma State put on them? So that was not good for me picking them, and as them being the place where I got my statistics degree from. We're going to close out this segment with the best. Cousin Jared, what was the best thing for you about this last weekend?
If you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, I think you probably know where I'm going with this. UConn and Vanderbilt. I lost my bet here. I laid 14.5 points with Vanderbilt. I won't make that mistake again, but who cares? UConn and Vanderbilt, two of the worst teams in college football, can still give you an excellent game that can kind of get you up off your couch and get you yelling at the TV on a Saturday night. This was great. Vanderbilt won on a late field goal, 30-28. I think that really gets down to the essence of college football, that you can have two absolutely awful teams and they can still put on a great show that's fun to watch. So that was by far the best thing this past Saturday for me.
It was a fantastic game. I tweeted it out as it got to the end, like everyone, this is must-see TV. It was fantastic. Vanderbilt had a lead. UConn goes down and drives and takes the lead late. Then Vanderbilt comes back and drives and wins it with a field goal, or was it ties, whatever it was. They came back and it was fantastic finish. Vanderbilt rushed the field after winning the game. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
after beating UConn of all teams. You're right. It was a fantastic game.
Yeah. So college football Twitter really got up for that game. And I think we're going to have another game that we're going to talk about this week that college football Twitter is really going to get excited about.
We are. I'm so pumped to talk about it later. I'm so pumped.
Please tell me Vandy got fined.
I think that's standard in the SEC, right?
Yeah. I know everybody gets fined. I wonder if they'll have.
But if you rush
pity on
against
Vanderbilt.
UConn, the fine's double, right?
See, I was going to say the other way. Like Vanderbilt won, maybe they won't get fined. Like, maybe
look the other way.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, whatever. We'll
Vandy is not Kansas. Kansas can rush the field when they win.
Hey, if you look at my rankings, and just a side note, if you're listening out there, I tweeted out this. I put all of my rankings up now in the Google Sheet so you can see how I power rate every single team. I think Vanderbilt and Kansas are one slot apart from each other right now. So I think you can't say that they aren't Kansas. I mean, they are more or less the same team right now, which is hard to believe. No other Power 5 team is even really close to them. I think the closest one's Arizona, who we've also talked about on this podcast about being really bad.
Yeah.
Jack, what about you? What was the best thing?
Moving to a game that actually matters for something.
Yeah.
Hey, that game
You're
mattered.
correct.
I could probably. It would take both of my hands to count the number of times I thought the Oregon-Stanford game was over and in Oregon's favor. But the end of that game was just phenomenal to watch. Like, kudos to Stanford for pulling that off, because I really, really didn't think they would do it as late as when there was no time left on the clock.
Yeah, right. It was a fantastic finish. Some questionable play calling there at the end by Stanford, but it worked out. That was a great ending. I saw that ESPN gave Oregon a 99.9% chance to win. I think their numbers are calibrated quite right. To me, I don't think that's a 1 in 1,000 comeback. I think that's more like a 1 in 80 type comeback, maybe. So I think their numbers, I think, are a little bit off, but nevertheless, it was an incredible comeback.
I've always thought ESPN's probabilities relied a little too much on the priors.
I'm not sure. I hadn't really assessed through what it was, but I think that was a little off. But it still was an incredible comeback either way. For me, the best thing was going to bed with Fresno State ahead and not seeing them fall apart, because Fresno State was outside the number for us. They were up 14, and I was like, they've got this. I think, Cousin Jared, I think I woke up to a text from you, the same thing. We both woke up, I think, and you said, I thought we had that or something. I was like, I thought we did too. It looked good. Fresno State -5 turnover differential, outgained Hawaii by over 150 yards. Just a wonky game, and I'm just glad I got some rest and didn't see it, because that was just would have been the worst thing to actually have to witness that.
Professor, do we need to have a talk if the best thing that happened to you last week was blissful ignorance?
Hey, that's how last week went for me. It was all downhill once about 3:30, 4 o'clock Central rolled around, maybe 5 Central or so. It was pretty much all downhill for me. The other thing I could have talked about is on this podcast last week, I did say the Michigan and Michigan State lines both confused the heck out of me. Those were crazy lines, and both of those were nice, easy victories. So I mean, it really was probably that. I just had to make a joke about Fresno State going to bed and the blissful ignorance of that game for me. All right, so that wraps us up for last week. Moving on to this week, as usual, all lines courtesy of Circa Sportsbook. We're going to start off with a Thursday game. Coastal Carolina is a 19.5 point favorite at Arkansas State. Cousin Jared, do you have anything for this one?
Arkansas State loves to give up points. I mean, statistically, they're probably not as bad as the UConn defense from a couple of years ago, but they are really, really, really bad. I mean, Washington put up 52 on this Memphis team that I've been betting the unders against every week, put up 45 on them, or 46, something like that. It's just Arkansas State's defense is really bad. That's all I've got. No play, but Arkansas State's defense is bad.
Yeah, not only does Coastal love to score points on top of that, I'm looking at Coastal's schedule. They don't play anybody.
You're right.
Ever.
You're right. I actually was looking around at some projected win-loss records end of season. I kind of stumbled upon it this weekend, and a lot of them have Coastal projected to go like 11-1 because they don't play anybody.
Yeah, where's this one going to be in this schedule?
I think it's more of an expected value thing. Yeah. One of those, like, you have a 10th of a loss here and a 10th of a loss here and a 10th of a loss here, and eventually you're going to lose to somebody.
I guess they almost lost to Buffalo, but no, like no official play for me here, but I don't see why Coastal has any problems in this game.
Yeah, I don't either. The total I think is in the 70s actually. This is one of my 5 best bets right here. The model says 23 is what the line should be. I made some tweaks here to the model. I noticed it was getting a little bit favorite heavy, which is not where I want to go. So kind of reined that back in. And now the model doesn't like laying big numbers, which is kind of the point. Laying big numbers is usually a fool's errand. So when I can get this calibrated right, like I think it is now, anytime the model says to lay a big number, I think it's right. I really like it. And so I really like this play because it doesn't say lay a lot of big numbers this week, but this is one of them. I think Coastal Carolina is going to put up a ton of points. And so I am laying the 19.5 with Coastal Carolina as one of my 5 best bets for this week in college football. No other midweek games to talk about. We will have some other picks on those that we will tweet out and put in the sheet as well. But we're going to move on to the Saturday games. Michigan State is a 5-point favorite at Rutgers. We've been kind of riding this Michigan State team lately. Cousin Jared, are we going to keep up on that train?
You took the words right out of my mouth. Michigan State's been so good to us all year. It's official play for me. I have no problem laying the 5 points with Michigan State here. I'm not sure how many points Rutgers is going to score. So even if Michigan State came out a little flat on offense, or Rutgers defense was playing really well, I still don't see Rutgers scoring very many points in this game. So again, no problem here with me laying the 5 points with Michigan State.
Yeah. Have fun, guys. I'm going to stay away from a pretty scrappy Rutgers team playing at home. That's going to scare me, so no official pick for me.
I too am laying the 5 points. The model says this should be a 6.5-point Michigan State victory. So official pick for me, Michigan State -5. We've been riding them. I see no reason to stop. I don't know how Rutgers will feel after last week. Maybe bruised up a little bit, some bruised egos. I don't know.
Well, and after the loss to Michigan the week before that too, so kind of back to back, getting beat pretty handily, and then Michigan State come to town. It's going to be a tough spot for Rutgers.
Yeah, absolutely. The moment you have all been waiting for, the game of the week, UConn at UMass. Man, I don't even know where to start on the introduction here. UMass at home is getting 3.5 points. So UConn, who my model, I'll try not to bury the lead here, but UConn, who my model says is still the worst team in the country, is a 3.5-point road favorite to an FCS team. Jared, I'll let you take it away.
I think this opened as about a pick 'em, and it has just flown to UConn by 3.5. So if we're talking about this game, I have an idea of where at least the model might be leaning on this. I'll just go back and reference something that we said last week, where y'all both said that y'all were probably going to regret not taking the points with Boston College last week, and that came.
We were right. That's we do.
Came to fruition there. I think I'm going to regret not taking the points with UMass here, which is what I assume the model is going to do. So no play for me here. I think I'm going to regret that, but I'm interested to see what both of you have to say.
UConn should not be a road favorite to anybody until proven otherwise.
Yep.
Official pick. I am taking those points, including that very attractive hook. It would not surprise me if this game ends 3-0. And if it does, I will walk away happy.
And you mentioned that. I was just thinking back to that. Was it Wake Forest, Virginia Tech game several years ago? That was 0-0 going. I was thinking, I was like, it's probably not going to.
The Frank Beamer meme.
Yes. This isn't going to happen, right? The games don't go 0-0 overtime, but if it happens, this is going to be the one. UConn's offense is inept. I mean, both these teams are. I just don't understand this at all. My model says that UMass should be a 3.5-point favorite. It thinks that UMass is 1 point better, and I'm giving them 2.5 for home field. This makes no sense. It's a best bet of mine. It's a second best bet. I am also taking the 3.5 with UMass. Like you said, the 3 and the hook is just way too enticing to pass up here. I don't understand it. And UConn shouldn't be a favorite against anybody on a neutral field, much less on the road. It's really that simple.
For Jared, it's not too late.
It's not too late.
I'm sticking to my guns here. I'm staying away. But like I said, I will jump on this podcast next week and say that was my bad. I should have followed y'all. So it'll be the first thing I do next week.
The contrarian angle here with UConn, and I'll just mention this because it could go either way. And so I want to talk about it because I want to make sure you're thinking about, a lot of times, if you're listening to this and, you're trying to parse through what people say, make sure you think about both sides of the argument, right? One side of the argument with UConn is they played well 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They played well last week against Vanderbilt. I'm not sure how much of that's Vanderbilt, right? But you can make the argument They played well last week against Vanderbilt. They did cover. And so you can make the argument UConn is actually better. But all the numbers are taking all that into account. You could also go the other direction and say UConn's almost won twice in a row. Where's the letdown factor of, are we ever going to win a game? I mean, you can really argue that both ways. So I leave all that aside and just say, then the metrics are looking at this and still say that UConn is the worst team in the country, despite how well they looked those last 2 weeks. I have a recent play factor on a model that I'm kicking up. It's not a ton, but I'm kicking in this how they've looked lately factor. It still says UConn is the worst team in the land. So
well, and I think you hit on something there. Way more impressive than hanging in there with Vanderbilt and almost winning that game was how they played against Wyoming 2 weeks ago. That was a complete shocker. I don't know what the line was on that game. Probably like Wyoming by like 30 or 30s something. Yeah, and I can't remember, Wyoming won by 3 or 4 or something like that. So yeah, that was way more impressive. Honestly, that's why I'm staying away. Since they got rid of Edsel, they've been playing so much better. I'm gonna say I wish I had done it, but I just can't bring myself to do it.
I tried.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Another game that you probably aren't going to watch, Buffalo is at Kent State. Kent State is a 5.5 point favorite. Jared, do you have anything on this one?
No, nothing here. Just appreciate the words from last week. I said that I wanted Kent State if it got below 2 touchdowns. It never got below 2 touchdowns. Thankfully, I didn't take Kent State, and it would have been a loser if I would have taken Kent State. So kudos to properly calling the Kent State game last week.
Yeah, nothing from me either. I get why Buffalo's an underdog, but I suspect, Professor, that this game is on our list for a reason.
Absolutely. The model is 4-0 fading Kent State. It faded them last week successfully. I'm going to fade them again. I'm going to take Buffalo. The model thinks this should be about a pick 'em, so I'm getting 5.5 points for free. I've been on Buffalo a few times. It's worked a couple times. It hasn't worked a couple times. Last week, it was a push for me because I waited until the number got to 7. It was a win for Cousin Jared, who laid 6.5. So the Buffalo's been kind of up and down team, but fading Kent State has been profitable. The model thinks that the numbers that have caught up with them in Kent State isn't nearly as good as we like to think they are. And so I'm going to fade them again. So an official pick for me is I'm taking 5.5 with Buffalo. A more interesting game, Boise State at BYU. This one should be fun. BYU is a 5-point favorite. Jared?
Nothing from me here. I was a little hesitant just because all the injuries that the BYU quarterbacks have had. I think what I saw earlier today was that all of the quarterbacks are available, but they've just had so many injury problems at that position. I'm kind of staying away. We've ridden the BYU train for so long now. It really pains me to hop off. But this is going to be, I think it's going to be a really good game. So I think laying, however many points, 5 or 6 points with BYU is just too much for me.
All right, Jack.
This hurts because my struggles with trying to figure out how Boise is going to play on any given week are well documented among the group who are on this podcast.
Yeah.
But the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem, and I'm not there yet. So I'm going to make an official pick. I'm going to lay the points. I think that this Boise team just can't keep up with this BYU team. Now, I can't wait to see what kind of weird nullified fumble return, blocked field goal shenanigans cause me to lose this one, but still somehow have BYU end up on top. I'm mainly picking this because I want to be able to eat my crow 2 weeks from now.
So yeah, you're laying the 5 with BYU. I'm also laying the 5 with BYU. The model thinks this should be a shade over 6.5.
Oh no. I'm sorry, Professor.
Yeah.
I've ruined this.
I was on Boise State last week. I watched that game. Boise State does not look good. So to me, this at BYU, a very tough place to play. I think BYU is the better team. All the quarterbacks are good to go. They've got 2 really good ones. I just need one of them to go, actually. Don't even need both of them. So as long as one of them's good to go, we're set. The third stringer, I haven't seen as much of him, so that's a little bit shakier. But those top 2 guys are really good. I just like I said, I've watched a lot of Boise State. I've watched watched a lot of BYU. So I have a small model edge, but also have an eyeball edge. So that's an official pick for me. Jared, it'll be we're still on the train. You'll be watching us. Either we're going to crash and burn, or you're going to watch us ride into Profitville, and we're going to wish you were on it. One or the other. So we'll find out come Saturday. Or another team we've kind of ridden lately, Oregon State, as a 3.5 point favorite at Washington State. Cousin Jared, what do you have for us here?
Yeah, I like Oregon State. I mentioned last week, since they made the quarterback change about halftime of the Purdue game, they've been playing a lot better. Don't get it twisted though. Last week they beat Washington. They covered. I am still, I think, 4-0 in Washington games this year. But Oregon State did not play their best football. They only passed for like 44 yards. They ran the ball 50 times for 240 yards. So they're moving the ball on the ground really well. But it wasn't pretty. This is almost more of a I have no faith in Washington State. They beat Cal last week, but Washington State still didn't play well. Cal just constantly shot themselves in the foot over and over again and couldn't get going. I think Oregon State, as silly as it sounds, winning that game so ugly, I think gives them some confidence that they can play, they can win games when their quarterback's throwing for 350 yards, and they can win games when their quarterback's only throwing for 50 yards. So I think that actually builds up their confidence. Again, I don't think Washington State's very good. So official play from me here, I'm laying the 3.5 points with Oregon State.
And that game was on Pac-12 Network, so you said they didn't look good, but I'm not sure anyone watched it. So
no, I did not watch that with my own eyeballs. Yeah.
No one knows if they looked good, right? If a tree falls in the forest,
Exactly.
No, you can tell by the other trees around the forest. the one thing that I thought I believed in, that I felt like I knew, was that Oregon was good in the Pac-12, and that took a massive hit with Stanford. So no Pac-12 plays for me for the foreseeable future until they themselves figure out what the heck they're doing.
And I can't disagree with you unless it's a Washington game. If there's a Washington game, come talk to me. But any other team, I pretty much agree with you.
I'm glad I have a Washington man in Texas.
I'm with you. I have no best bets on any Pac-12 games, maybe for the rest of the year. That's just, I'll have best bets, but I'm not involved in Pac-12 games because I think those two words should not be uttered around Pac-12 games with how weird they have been. But this is also an official pick for me. The model says it should be Oregon State -7. I think Oregon State's pretty good, and people just haven't figured it out yet. And so if this line was up to 6, I think that's stay away. But it's missing by about 3.5 points here. So I like Oregon State here as well. Washington State, as you mentioned, Jared, not a very good team. So let's see if we can ride Oregon State to another victory, at least one more, until the number catches up to them. Whenever it does, of course, then we'll hop off and we'll, let other people take a stab at it. Speaking of those type of trains, right? Bowling Green, I was on them last week. I've been on Bowling Green a lot all season. They've been number caught up to them, and I'm not on them this week. So at some point we will get off those trains when it is time to. But it's not time to stop riding Oregon State yet. So I think this is a good spot for them to lay the 3.5 points.
0 regrets on passing on this one. There will be 0 regrets.
That's true. 0 regrets on passing on a Pac. If you pass on a Pac-12 game, no one is going to hold that against you. TCU is at Texas Tech. The Big 12 is going to start cannibalizing itself, kind of like the Pac-12 has. I mean, you've already seen it. TCU last week could not beat Texas at home, despite Texas not being able to, put the ball in the end zone. It seemed like Texas Tech, gets destroyed by Texas, then goes to West Virginia and wins on the road as a 7-point dog. So just a lot of blood here being shed in the Big 12. TCU is a 2-point road favorite. Cousin Jared, what do you got for us?
So I lost that West Virginia Texas Tech game last week. I laid 7 points with West Virginia, but I feel like I lost that game because West Virginia didn't play like I expected. I feel like my analysis of Texas Tech was pretty spot on. So I feel kind of good running with that assessment of Tech. And then what I'll say about TCU is Texas should have won that game last week, but TCU kind of did a lot of things to make sure that Texas won that game. There were a lot of bad turnovers. There was a targeting penalty that allowed Texas to have that 99-yard touchdown drive at the beginning of the game.
There was a timeout that led to the review to give the targeting penalty. I mean, they really shot themselves in the foot on that one.
Yeah, so I don't think Texas should have scored quite as many points as they did. And then I mentioned 2 weeks ago, Tech basically only scored on it explosive plays against Texas. That's not sustainable. And then they only scored 6 points in the second half against West Virginia, I believe. Did okay on offense the first half and then just completely went away in the second half. So with that in mind, official play from me here, I'm playing the under 63.5. If TCU just doesn't give the ball over and make dumb penalties, I don't think Tech's going to score that many points in this game. So official play for me, I'm taking the under 63.5.
That might be a big ask, Jared. So the first third of that TCU Texas game, I thought TCU was the better, stupider team. And it was that latter adjective that was preventing them from actually like having a lead. And then the wheels just fell off. Yep. And given Tech's ability to be just completely up and down and up again and down again, like this game could be a hot mess. Like just mistake after mistake. I'm hoping for your sake that those mistakes don't turn into points the other way.
Yep. Definitely could.
I'm taking the 2 points with Tech. This is my third best bet of the week's slate. My model thinks Tech should be a 2-point favorite. Lubbock is a tough place to play. I have a slightly different take on Tech. I think it's that they got beat by a pretty good Texas team in Austin. A pretty good Texas team who's looked a lot better with Thompson at quarterback. I think they advanced metrics really like them. I like them too. I'm not sure TCU is that good. You hear the whole stat. We talked about this previously. TCU looks really good the week before Texas, or looks really bad the week before Texas and really bad the week after Texas, but they play well against Texas. This year, they looked bad the week before Texas. They looked bad against Texas. That doesn't really bode well for the week after Texas. Yep. I'm not sure that means anything other than I just don't think this is a very good TCU team. You're giving me points in Lubbock. I'm taking those points. That's a best bet. Tech +2. Also of note, the model is 3-0 backing Tech this year. I should have backed them last week and been 4-0, but I didn't. I'm not making that same mistake twice. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is here and take the points with Tech.
They're streamlining. That's all. Why have 2 bad games in 3 weeks when you can have 2 bad games in 2 weeks?
There you go. Georgia, and one of the more interesting games of the week is a 14.5 point favorite at Auburn. Jared, I think you got to play on this one. What are you thinking?
Yeah, official play from me here. I'm laying the 14.5 points with Georgia. 3 things kind of drive my thinking here. Number one, I saw the model on this, and if you have it available, what did the model make this game?
The model makes this game a Georgia -12.
Okay, Georgia by 12. I don't think that models in general, I don't, and I don't know why I'm talking about models.
You're the non-statistician on this podcast.
I have
no idea. No, don't stop him. Do not stop him.
Let me dig my own hole here. So I don't think it does well with outliers. And Professor, I know you were doing some of this work with the model last year, and I know it never really caught up to how good Alabama was. Like basically, a lot of times it saw that big number, said you need to play against Alabama, and Alabama was just constantly covering. I think we have something similar here with Georgia, where I just don't think the model can quite catch up to how good Georgia is. So that's the first thing. I also think that Auburn and Arkansas are very similar. Me personally, I don't know what the model thinks, but me personally, I think Arkansas is a little bit better than Auburn is, and we kind of saw how that played out last week. I know playing at Auburn is pretty tough, but it's not going to make that much of a difference. And the Bo Nix experience, what happened against LSU, I feel pretty confident in saying it's not going to happen against Georgia. So kind of with all those things in mind, official play for me, I'm going to lay the 14.5 points with Georgia. I just think Georgia is too good, and the models and the numbers in Vegas just hasn't quite caught up to it.
I don't think I have any right to refute. I am still waiting for those Arkansas points.
Yeah, after fading Georgia last week.
Yeah. Like lesson learned. Go crazy.
Yeah, and to everything that Jared said is accurate. I've given him the deep dive on the statistics, so he explained that very well. The models in general do not do well with outliers. I think Georgia this year absolutely is an outlier. It's a straight pass for me right now. It's not even a lean, or I'm talked about at the beginning of the show. Smaller picks on leans. I'll be doing a little bit of that. I've got one of those later, but not even a lean here. I'm just completely staying away, at least for now. I might do some more research throughout the week. Might make a pick on it, but for now, the model does like Auburn. But everything that Jared said is spot on. I cannot endorse Auburn specifically because the model likes them. Because I just don't think the model is doing a good job of encapsulating Georgia. It never caught up to Alabama last year whatsoever, even out of the championship game. It kept getting it wrong, thinking the points are valuable, but it just doesn't know how to handle those teams that are really good. And Georgia is very good defensively. It's almost like they've got some hybrid combination of speed defensive backs and physicality of linebackers, like at every position. Every time someone gets to the line of scrimmage, there's 3 guys on him. It's insane. I don't think Auburn's gonna enjoy that very much. So
and this wave of destruction has been mainly with their backup quarterback.
Right.
Yeah. And last year that would have scared me, but with how they're playing this year, I don't even care.
Right. And now I profited on Auburn last week against LSU, the next game we're going to talk about here. Like you said, the experience you get there watching Auburn's offense is fun, but also terrifying at the same time. You never know what you're going to get. But I have been fading LSU basically all season. And so they are 3-point underdogs at Kentucky. I feel like we should all stop and think for a second about what this just means for the world. LSU, a 3-point underdog at Kentucky. I just got to collect myself. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah.
I just the words, they sound so weird coming out of my mouth, you know?
Let's enter the world where I've been living in, where I've been trying to tell everybody that I think Kentucky is better this year. So
you have been saying that.
And so don't get me wrong, I'm still surprised that I'm saying that, but I've been higher on Kentucky. But let's flip the tables here. Official play for me, I am taking LSU plus the 3 points here. And this unfortunately doesn't have much to do with me thinking highly of LSU, because honestly I don't. But there's 2 reasons why I'm taking the 3 points with LSU here. The first big game of the season that Kentucky had was against Missouri. I understand that we've seen plenty of Missouri now to know that Missouri is not very good. But if you look at the SEC East, it was kind of like Tennessee, Vanderbilt, South Carolina there towards the bottom. You had Florida and Georgia kind of at the top, and Kentucky and Missouri entering the season, it was kind of like those 2, hey, who's going to be the best of the rest type thing. And so I really think both teams built up that game and kind of viewed it as, hey, we've got to win this game if we want to be able to challenge, Florida or Georgia this year. So Kentucky came out, won that game. They kind of established themselves as that 3rd team in the SEC East. And then what happened next week? They almost got beat by Tennessee Tech. It was very, very close game. I was shocked at the final score. So Kentucky already has a record this year of getting a big win and then completely not showing up the next week. I think this is a perfect spot for that. The other thing, let's flip it over to LSU real quick. LSU is currently 3-2. After this Kentucky game, let me read off their next 4 games. Florida, Ole Miss, Alabama, Arkansas. If LSU doesn't win this game, they are staring 3-7
over October.
Yeah, they're staring 3-7 in the face and not making it to a bowl game. I think this is a must win for LSU. So again, official play, I'm taking the 3 points. You've got LSU who's got to get this win, maybe to be bowl eligible. And you've got Kentucky coming off a big win, maybe a little bit of a hangover here. I think it's just a perfect combination to take the points with LSU.
It's hard to add to what Jared just said. I have a few thoughts on this game. First of all, like Kentucky's last 4 games against opponents of highly variable quality have all been within 7 points. So maybe maybe this is a prime game where if you want to tease LSU with somebody and get that line to like a touchdown, that might be an opportune playing for. I'm not gonna do it, but
I'm not gonna do it. Okay.
I don't know what I would pair it with. I haven't thought that much ahead into this, but someone else do it and thank me later. I'm not gonna take a play on this game because like we've all seen the highlight reels of what happens when LSU goes to Kentucky and it's a close game. Like things end poorly for Kentucky. but like I think they are legitimately the better team this year, and this might be the year they do it. I just don't want to have money on it when it happens.
All right, so I've been fading LSU all year. It's been well documented. I do not think they are that good. At this point, I think my numbers have caught up and realized how not good they are. So it's time to flip the script. I'm taking the points with LSU as well, taking LSU +3 official pick. The model thinks that Kentucky should be a 1.5 point favorite. What that means is I think that LSU is still 1 point better than Kentucky on a neutral field. That seems about right. LSU is not as good as people thought they were at the start of the year. Kentucky's a little bit better. The fact that they're within 1 point says a lot because at the start of the season, they were not within 1 point on anybody's power ratings. So the fact that I've moved them that close, I think, is a pretty good adjustment. Jared gave a lot of other good reasons why this is a good spot for LSU. I love getting the field goal. If it's under a field goal, this is definitely a no play for me, but getting the field goal as a possible push, I like taking the points with LSU. So first time all season, I'm going to actually back the Tigers here. Speaking of Tigers, Missouri, who I think just give up another touchdown to Tennessee, is playing at home to North Texas. They are 18.5 point favorites. Cousin Jared.
Man, yeah, Missouri is very, very not good. Looking back, I was very confident that they were going to beat Boston College, and I was super wrong on that. So I am not the right person to talk to Missouri about because clearly I have misjudged them all season. So obviously no play for me in this game.
I've had Missouri pegged basically since week 1 because I was like, okay, if your look ahead game is Kentucky, we need to talk Missouri because it's going to be a long season for you.
I remember we talked about that. You're right. Yeah, Kentucky was the look ahead game. That says something.
Yeah.
Even a revived Kentucky team, that still says something.
Yeah, and it's basically come to fruition. Nevertheless, I am not that tempted to take these points with North Texas because it's more about I don't trust North Texas either. Big game against A&M next week, though. Be fun to see what that line ends up being.
Yeah, that's going to be the opposite of a rock and a hard place.
It's when the stoppable force meets the movable object.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea what's going to happen in that game.
Right. So this one, I think North Texas is the play. The model thinks they should only be a 16 point underdog, not 18.5. So 17 and 18 are very likely outcomes for this game. That gives us a nice little edge here. So I'm taking the 18.5 official pick with North Texas. The model is 4-0 fading Missouri. I see no reason not to continue to fade them. I think people are still betting Missouri, the name on the jersey, but they are not good at all. I don't really trust this North Texas team either. I just think that Missouri, people just don't realize how bad they are this year. And so until the number catches up, I'm going to continue to fade them, as is. So also small schools, Georgia State at Louisiana Monroe. Jared, you have a play on this one?
Yeah, don't watch this game, guys, but just know that both teams play extremely fast. So official play for me, I'm taking the over 52. I don't care how ugly it is. I think the pace can get us over that number here.
I yield the remainder of my time to Jared.
I have nothing. I think that was it. That was all he had. Yeah. And I want to talk about this game specifically because if you look at the spreadsheet, you'll notice that my number on this would make you think that Louisiana Monroe is the play. Anytime you see where it looks like the model has a play and I'm not making the play, it's because I am calling it audible on that. In this case, I'm calling it audible specifically because ULM's quarterback is out. I don't know what sort of effect that has. We talked about this previously on the pod. I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that who's looking at that sheet. There is no one-off manual adjustment that I'm making. I'm letting the model do its thing. If you want to make a manual adjustment to that, go for it. I am not going to do it. And so as it is, I'm just leaving the game alone, but it will look like the model is saying to play it, but the model doesn't know the quarterback is out. So that's how most of these models work too, if you look at other people's models. So this is just a common thing to keep an eye out on. So again, no play for me there. I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that if they are perusing that sheet.
Do you remember like that ULM team several years ago that ran the option with two quarterbacks?
With the two quarterbacks, the right-handed one and the left-handed one. I do. That was fascinating football.
Yeah. It's a shame that we haven't really seen that since. I thought we'd see something like that by now.
I really did too, especially at like a small school. You would have thought of like that's something that Fritz would have tried at Tulane, right?
Yeah,
something gimmicky like that. Yeah, we haven't seen it since. That was a lot of fun though. They just put both quarterbacks back there. It was handoffs leading to passes, and then each time you could roll right with the righty, roll left with the lefty. It didn't matter. I mean,
yeah,
wonky.
I believe the lefty was Colton Browning, if I recall correctly.
I think you're right.
And I think I played against him, and I know I played against him in high school, and he kicked our butts. He was actually pretty good. So
I think he still played Division I college football. So
Yeah.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Better than me.
Yeah,
definitely better than me.
On this podcast. Back to more entertaining football that you're actually going to watch. The Red River Rivalry. Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma is a 3.5-point favorite. This game is in the Cotton Bowl still. They have not moved it out as of yet, at least. Who knows in years to come what will happen there, but that is in Dallas at the State Fair. Cousin Jared, what do you got for us?
So I'm going to yield most of my time here to the two Big 12 guys here. They watch a lot more Big 12 than I do. But official play for me here, I'm taking the under 63.5. We kind of already talked about Texas last week, how their point total was a little bit inflated with all of the mistakes and the turnovers that TCU had. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I trust Oklahoma's defense, I think, more than I trust their offense. I'm not really sure which Oklahoma offense is going to show up week to week at this point. So I can't say that I have any real good reason for this. Oklahoma could come out and score 45 points and make me look real dumb, but I'm going to go with we see the bad Oklahoma offense this week, and I'm taking the under 63.5.
So, question for the residents of Texas. Is the Texas State Fair happening?
It is happening, and there are people there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, yeah, because it's Texas.
Yes.
This
I went to the State Fair last year. It was drive-through. We stayed in our cars. We got hot corn dogs and carnival games in our car. We went out into the parking lot and ate a picnic. It was bizarre.
If this Oklahoma team, I mean, far more than any of the other Oklahoma teams in the past, if this Oklahoma team overcomes all of this and ends up running the table, I am going to be furious.
Yeah.
Someone has to beat this team.
Yeah.
They've tried to let it happen multiple times.
Yeah. And if it's not this week, I don't know when it's going to be.
So I am taking the 3.5 with Texas. It's a lean for me. So that's one of my weaker picks. For the unit purposes, that'd be just one unit as opposed to the standard picks of 2 or the best bets of 3. I lean Texas. I don't love that pick. The model says it should be right around this number as well. The issue that I have is that I don't think my number is reflecting accurately Oklahoma. And that's the way these models go, right? I'm trying to incorporate 130 teams. It can't be perfect on all of them. It's trying to just do really well with most of them. I don't think it's doing a good job of Oklahoma yet. We talked about this in previous weeks with Clemson, right? Clemson finally has fallen a little bit. Thankfully, Oklahoma just hasn't looked good offensively. I don't see it yet. Texas looks a lot better, as you talked about before, with the Thompson in at quarterback. So I think getting over a field goal is solid. I like it a whole lot less at 3. They could easily lose by 3. So at +3, I don't think there's any value there. But at +3.5, I like it a little bit, just because I don't, like we've already talked about, I don't know what I'm getting from Oklahoma. And Texas is a solid team, so I think that's got some value there. So a lean for me, Texas +3.5. Michigan at Nebraska. Michigan is a 3-point road favorite. Another team, at least I've been writing recently, Michigan. What do you got for us here, Cousin Jared?
Yeah, so full disclosure here, this opened at Michigan by 4, and I grabbed it. I thought it was going to go up from there, and I'm shocked that it's come back down. It's Michigan only by 3 now. Official play for me here, I'm laying the 3 points with Michigan. And so I guess a couple of things on that. I want to acknowledge, it was probably 3 weeks ago at this point that I said I can't imagine myself backing Nebraska at any point the rest of the season. Jack, you mentioned not having to worry about any of your bets. I did not have to worry about my Nebraska bet laying the 10 or 10.5 points against Northwestern last week. That was done in the first quarter. So Nebraska, I'm sorry, you are greatly improved. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. But I think I finally come around to the model on Michigan. I went with it. Last week I was like, I'm not so sure against Wisconsin, but man, I'm kind of sold at this point. And the thing that really made me go with this pick here was I saw where Michigan basically hurried the passer almost in every drop back last week in the Wisconsin game. Wisconsin had like 25 dropbacks, and they were hurried, either hurried or hit or sacked on almost every single dropback. If there's anything I know that Adrian Martinez is going to have at least a few turnovers if he is put under that much pressure by the Michigan defense. And that's basically what it comes down to me. I trust Michigan to get pressure, and I trust Adrian Martinez to turn the ball over here. And I like the 3 because we had a very similar thing when I think most of us went with Michigan State against Nebraska a couple of weeks ago, and the 3 would have gives a push, but we lost because we had like 4.5 or something like that. So I really like the 3 here. I'm laying the 3 points with Michigan.
Well, maybe Wisconsin was thinking having our quarterback get sacked can't possibly be worse than letting him throw.
That is accurate, and I hate to say this, but I'm not sure anybody was upset whenever they got to see the backup last week.
Yeah. Twitter was abuzz on that one. I think I saw someone tweet about how the best offensive play that Wisconsin could have run was a second down punt. And I mean, it wasn't really inaccurate. I mean, it was bad.
Oh, yeah. So I basically second everything Jared said. This is an official play for me as well. A few weeks ago, this would have been me picking Michigan to hate on Nebraska. I don't have much of a reason to hate on Nebraska, but I do think Michigan's pretty dang good.
Yeah, absolutely. My numbers, like Nebraska, they have them rising. Nebraska looked pretty good against Oklahoma. I backed them there, and that was a pretty easy winner. They had really that one stretch against Illinois early on, I think is what's maybe causing our memories or our thoughts on them to be what they are early on in the season, but they continue to look really good. But yet my model loves Michigan. People don't realize how good this Michigan team is. I said it last week. I will say it again this week. Make it all 3 of us on Michigan. It's my last best, or my second to last best bet of the day. Michigan -3. I love this pick. Everything's already been said. I'll tack on one thing. My model's 4-0 backing Michigan. I don't see why we should stop. The number hasn't caught up. At some point, the number will. It just isn't there yet. Michigan is really, really good. They're easily a top 5 team in my opinion.
Yeah, this is the point in College Game Day where Reese Davis points down that everybody's taking the one team, and Reese says he's gonna take the other team. So we've set ourselves up for that next week.
We have. At some point, we'll have to go back and look at the numbers of how we do when all 3 of us like the same pick. At some point, we'll start keeping track of some of those things and see.
We all 3 lost Army last week.
That's true. We did. Yeah.
We weren't going to talk about that.
Hey, that's a sample size of 1. All right. We got to go back and get all of them and see how we're doing. Are we above water on this or not? UTSA at Western Kentucky. I hate UTSA. I'm just going to come out and say it. I tweeted this. Who I hate, number 1, whoever your favorite team is. Number 2, UTSA. I have thought they aren't that good. People are just like raving about how they're going to be upstart, and they're not. And they win and they cover. And then I'm like, hey, all right, they figured it out. My numbers adjust. I back them against a really bad UNLV team, and they try to lose the game. They tried to lose as 21-point favorites. I hate this team.
And that's how the professor children got banned from San Antonio.
I love San Antonio. San Antonio is a great place. We have some friends down there. The Riverwalk is great. I have a lot of good memories there. Western Kentucky's a 3.5-point favorite at home. Cousin Jared, do you have anything for this one?
No, but I'm actually excited to watch this game. This is a pretty good clash of styles. I think both of them are pretty good for G5 teams. I think UTSA is really good. They can run the ball really well. Western Kentucky, with their quarterback, basically like took the whole offense from Houston Baptist last year and took it to Western Kentucky, and they just throw the ball around like nobody's business. I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch, a good clash of styles. No play for me, but sometimes we talk about these G5 games, kind of kind of sarcastically, but I'm genuinely excited to watch this one.
So full disclosure, I am going to be away this weekend with limited cell service and no cable. I look forward to coming back into the grid and getting like 100 text messages from the professor and Jared, and half of them being about this game.
That's probably accurate. Jared, everything you said, absolutely accurate. Western Kentucky is must-watch TV, I feel like, with their offense, no matter who they're playing. This is a very underrated game. If you have the opportunity with multiple screens, I do encourage you to keep an eye on this game. It should be close. It should be fun. I'm taking the Roadrunners yet again. I'm taking the 3.5
This
points.
is gonna be great. I am so happy.
You know, it's one of those things where I have the power for them to win or lose at this point, I feel like. And why my powers aren't for something better, I don't really know. You know, life isn't fair, right? The model thinks it should be about a pick 'em. So getting 3 plus the hook is valuable. So I have UTSA as a better team there on the road.
UTSA doesn't roll off the tongue as well as Boise does.
Yeah, exactly. I'm entering Boise level territory here, but I'll take the 3.5. Whatever. We're going to close out our main game segment with the game of the week, Penn State at Iowa. 2 top 5 teams. The first time that 2 top 5 Big Ten teams have faced off, not named Ohio State or Michigan. In my life, any of our lifetimes, even our lifetimes plus a decade, I believe. It's been a long time. 2 really good teams, going to be a great game. Iowa is a short favorite, opened about 1.5. I think it's up to 2.5 now. I doubt it gets to 3, but if it does, that's going to change our perspective on this, I think. But right now, it's not there yet. So what's your analysis right now, Cousin Jared?
Nothing that Iowa's doing seems sustainable. But at the same time, I feel like everything that Iowa does is unsustainable. Like every year that they have a really good season, it's because they just do unsustainable things throughout the entire season. So it's almost like their MO at this point. I want to take Penn State in this game just because I don't think Iowa can keep doing the things that they've been doing. But Iowa at home, I just can't bring myself to do it. I'm not going to make a play on this game. To your point, I don't know how long it's been since there's been a Big Ten game that I've been excited to watch that hasn't included Ohio State or Michigan. And I can't believe I'm saying I'm excited to watch this game. The total on this game is like 43 or something like ridiculously low.
It'll be fast. That'll be good, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're definitely you don't want to get up from your seat because you're probably going to miss a few things. The clock's gonna be running quite a bit.
Yeah.
I just I can't bring myself to make a play, but nothing that Iowa's doing seems like it could last, in my opinion.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Jared? So, how do you equate like Iowa and teams like Auburn? Because I picture them being close to the same, but maybe not quite like Iowa being as efficient as like an Auburn or an Arkansas is.
Okay. I feel like Auburn. Okay. Auburn may have been a bad example there. I feel like Auburn is terribly inefficient. Like we talked about the Bo Nix experience, you never know what you're going to get, and I feel like that was kind of what Auburn did the whole time. I know Malzahn's not there anymore, but they've kind of just been up and down, up and down, up and down. Like Iowa is they just turn you over like 3 times every game. It seems.
Or 5 in the first half if you're mad.
Yeah. In the
not better.
Oh my God.
Not better.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. They do that in the games that matter. So the games that don't matter, like Colorado State or Kent State, they don't do those things. I feel like you see what an Iowa team would be like if they didn't have all of those unsustainable things happen. But then every time there's a big game that comes up, Iowa State and Maryland so far this year, they just do these things that they shouldn't be able to do. So I don't know. I don't feel like I answered your question. I feel like Auburn's just way more variable. It seems like Iowa is variable, but it seems like they're variable at the right times, and it's almost like it's ingrained in them at this point.
Jared, by not answering my question, you somehow still managed to answer my question.
Okay, good.
I am looking at this, trying to figure out how Penn State Iowa is going to be different from Penn State Auburn. And I guess the only difference that I see is that it's going to be in Iowa City.
Yeah. Location. Yeah.
I got nothing.
I've got these 2 teams. I've got Penn State ranked 7th and Iowa ranked 8th. I think my model says a 2-point game. Iowa should be slight favorites. So it's a pass for me. If it does get to 3, that's at least a lean. Penn State, I have to look at my numbers and see from there. So if it does get to 3, I may make a play on this later in the week, but right now it's a complete pass. This number is spot on, in my opinion. Everything that Jared said is spot on. I already joked about it, still kind of bitter about that Iowa Maryland game, Maryland having 5 turnovers in the first half. I mean, that was insane. And you can't, I don't know how to account for that because turnovers, and I saw the graphic during Oregon Stanford to start the game, how Oregon leads the nation going into that game and turnover margin. I'm like, oh, great. Like they've been relying on turnover luck, and I kind of trust the numbers to balance all that stuff out. And I see that I'm like, oh, if they don't get turnovers, they're screwed. And they lost. So it's one of those things where I feel the same way about Iowa, and I'm thinking the play is Penn State, but they, like Jared, like you said, they keep doing these things. So I mean, just from an eye standpoint, I don't know what to make of this game. I think it's gonna be fascinating to watch. It should be a really good game. Yeah, you leave your seat, you're gonna miss 5 minutes of game action, probably also about 5 yards. It's gonna be old school football here. But yeah, for me, a pass on this. The game of the week here, I guess the real game of the week. Apologies to UConn and UMass.
Yes.
And so that wraps us up for the day games. Now it's time for After Dark. If you are a night owl who loves college football, this is a segment for you. Let's get right to it. There are 4 games After Dark this week. The first one, Memphis at Tulsa. Tulsa is a 3-point home favorite. Cousin Jared.
I feel like y'all know where I'm going with this. I am going back to the well here. Official play for me, under 61.5 for this game. I have no idea who set this line and what game they were watching. Jack, also, as you alluded to, none of your games were close last week. I laid 4 points with Tulsa, and they lost 45-10 last week. So that was somehow that didn't even make it into my bad. So that tells you how crazy last weekend was. I don't know who's making these lines, what they're watching. Memphis has shown offensive inconsistency all year. They had the miracle bad beat that we talked about at the top of the show here. To go hit the over last week when I had the under. I do not hesitate going back here. I mean, Tulsa scored 10 points against Houston. Houston's defense may be a little bit better than Memphis's, but not much. I think the offensive or the total numbers that you're seeing in these Memphis games, Professor, you mentioned earlier that people are betting Missouri based on the name on their jersey. I think that people are betting the totals on these Memphis games, thinking that these are the Mike Norvell teams from 2015, 2016, 2017. And this Memphis team is just not that offensively.
Those teams were a lot of fun, but like you said, these are not that same team at all. This team is not better than those teams.
No. And that 46 points they put up against Arkansas State was a complete facade. Arkansas State is awful. They beat Mississippi State, but there was some fluky calls and some special team stuff there to get. I'll say it. I think I've said it twice this season. Best bet. I'm going to make it the 3rd time. This is my best bet of the season.
All right.
Memphis and Tulsa under 61.5. Go get it now. This is going to go down. So I love this play.
All right. On record, Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, Tulsa also scored 41 on Arkansas State. So scoring points against Arkansas State, not an achievement.
Yeah,
who hasn't scored points at Arkansas State? Have they played
scored points against
already?
Arkansas State.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Washington scored 52. It means nothing.
I swear Arkansas State's played 15 games by now.
Official play for me. I'm not sure why Tulsa is favored. And the reason I say that is I think part of it is because they're probably getting a little too much credit for playing an Oklahoma State team close, who's been very consistent on offense in the second half. Zero has zero variance, right?
That's true.
If you don't have an offense, you're consistently
They did
performing.
Score 10 points last week in the second half, so that puts,
they did.
It skyrockets the variance.
But yeah, like barely beat Arkansas State at home, got the doors blown off of them by Houston. Like Memphis consistency problems otherwise, like this team should not be a favored team.
This is they scored 20-something points against Ohio State and made Ohio State sweat for a half. This is what the Tulane Tulsa numbers have been the last few weeks.
Right after
longer than half too. They look solid for the first part of the game, and then they got blown out at the end.
Which might be better explained by the Oregon hangover than by anything else, because that was the week after the Oregon loss for Ohio State.
Yeah.
So I am taking the points. I am taking Memphis, and this is going to be one I don't think I even look twice at.
Yeah, I am also taking the 3 points with Memphis. This is a wrong team favorite game, in my opinion. I think Memphis should be a half-point favorite. Rarely in these wrong team favorite games do you get a full field goal. This line makes no sense to me. It's only not a best bet because I want my best bets to be on teams I've seen a little bit more. I've not seen much of these teams, so it's only not in that category simply because I haven't seen enough to really know how much I trust the model on them, but it's got all the components for it. So it's one I really do like, even though it falls just shy of best bet territory for me.
Okay, guys, I'm about to go off script here. So
Uh-oh.
let me ask you. So I just want to say, I feel like we've hated on a few teams this year. Navy, we hated on, said they were pretty bad. Congratulations, Navy. Good win last weekend. We've hated on UConn plenty.
Yeah.
UConn's been playing better, still the worst team, but I think we can all agree they've played better. And I think, we've talked a little bit about UMass. I think there's been a couple other teams that we've kind of said some bad things about this year. Can we say that Arkansas State is now going to be the team that we're going to talk bad about from now on? I had to bring it up. Georgia Southern, who'd fired their coach last Monday, put up 59 points on Arkansas State on Saturday, 6 days after firing their head coach. Arkansas State is very not good. So people who listen to this podcast, I'm sure you come here for some of our kind of absurd stats and weird teams that we dive into. We will officially say that we are an anti-Arkansas State podcast.
Hey. They are not the worst team in Arkansas. They beat Central Arkansas by 19.
This is a different weight class.
Yeah. I'm not really sure if that counts.
Hey. But it's not wrong.
There's some middle school teams that are worse than them too. I don't think we want to compare them to those guys. I mean, come on.
Hey.
But I think you're right. I keep hearing about how all these teams have scored points on Arkansas State. I swear Arkansas State's played 15 times already, because every time we turn around, they scored a bunch against State, and they scored on Arkansas State, and they scored on Arkansas State. Yeah. I don't know if that'll trend will continue, but it has so far. Moving on from that one, UCLA is a 16-point favorite at Arizona. As we talked about, Arizona, the third worst Power 5 conference team at this point. Cousin Jared, what do you got?
So Arizona quarterback Jordan McCloud, know the name. He's the one that's going to get us to the window this week. Made his first career start at Oregon 2 weeks ago. Arizona put up their most yards they put up all season against Oregon in Oregon. They put up 435 yards. They only scored 19 points, but he threw 5 interceptions in that game. They still put up the most yards they put up all season. If Arizona can put up 19 against Oregon in Eugene with this new quarterback, they've got a bye week. I think they're going to put up at least 27 or 28 points against UCLA. I think UCLA is going to score in the 30s or 40s in this game. So official play from me here, I am taking the over 61, and that is thanks to Jordan McCloud.
All right, Jack, got anything for us?
How can it be thanks to Jordan McCloud if you're counting on him to score less than half of the points you need for the over?
I think he's counting on him to give UCLA some points too.
He could do that. He is also astronomically better than every other quarterback that Arizona has trotted out there this year.
Hey, I'm not sure that's saying anything, though, to be fair.
It's not saying anything, but he was much, much better than any of the other quarterbacks that they had to play this year against San Diego State and BYU and that loss to Northern Arizona. There was a reason they put this guy in, but he rewarded them with that game against Oregon.
Hey, at least my compliment to Arkansas State was irrefutable.
True.
I think that a stat that you talked about with Arizona exemplifies Oregon. They led the nation in turnover margin entering this last week. They also were last in the Pac-12 in total defense. So I'm not sure how impressive that is with regards to that, just because I don't think Oregon's defense is very good. But you're right, he does provide a pulse as opposed to some other guys. I'm taking UCLA minus 16. The model says 17.5, so it's a very small edge, but it's still an official pick for me. As we talked about at the top of the show, my model does not love favorites. That's by design. So when it does like favorites, I roll with it. I don't know what to make of UCLA. I don't know what to make of the Pac-12 whatsoever. My only thought here, and this is maybe my last play on UCLA before I quit them for good. They've gotten me to the window a couple times, and they've cost me a couple times too. So we're kind of at least hanging in there with them. But my thought watching UCLA, they do really well when they step down in weight class. Arizona obviously is one of those. So I think they've got a good chance to win this game by 21, 24, something like that, because they tend to take care of business a little bit better there as opposed to against teams that are, the Fresno States of the world, the Arizona States of the world are much more competent than Arizona is. So I'm comfortable laying the 16 with UCLA. We just talked about San Diego State already playing Arizona this year. They are hosting New Mexico. San Diego State is a 19.5 point favorite. Anybody got anything on this one?
No, not really. I considered playing San Diego State here, but I know it's been a long time at this point, but I just have flashbacks to the first game of the season, San Diego State hosting New Mexico State, and we were all like, "This is an easy cover for San Diego State," and it never happened. So I wanted to play San Diego State here, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Something about them and teams from New Mexico, I just can't do it.
And New Mexico is an objectively better team than New Mexico State. Yeah. I don't trust this either.
So I'm laying the 19.5 with San Diego State. This is my last best bet of the show here. So our after dark best bet. Yes, the model says 22.5. New Mexico is a better team than New Mexico State. You're not wrong. However, in that game, we had to lay a whole lot more points than this. The model is 3-0, fading New Mexico. So while New Mexico is a better team, I think people are thinking that New Mexico is still better than they are. They aren't very good at all. So if you've been fading New Mexico, you've been profitable. I want to continue that trend here. I think the San Diego State team has kind of gotten it together. I watched the New Mexico State game. Mainly because in the After Dark segment, you kind of watch all of them because there's less happening. They looked awful early on, and then they started rolling. As long as they avoid that slow start, they'll easily cover 19.5 here. So I have no problem laying the points with San Diego
counterpoint, New Mexico State lost to San Diego State by 18. San Diego State would not have covered this line against the Aggies.
Correct. But yeah, that's what I mentioned, though, that New Mexico State got up to a 10-0 lead. San Diego State rolled at the end of that game. It just took them a while to get going. So as long as they can avoid that slow start, I think they'll be fine. Also, New Mexico State, kind of frisky, actually is covered way more than you'd think. They're up to the 4th worst team in college football. So they've gotten out of the basement. They've gotten out of second worst. They're now the 4th worst team. That's going to be our last game here. And After Dark, we were not escaping us talking about New Mexico State here on the unofficial New Mexico State football podcast. They are at Nevada. Nevada is a 32-point favorite.
Yeah, I no play for me on this game, but I would consider taking that. That's a lot of points. New Mexico State's a little bit better than maybe we've thought they've been, and I definitely see a little bit of a letdown spot here in Nevada after that big game at Boise last week. So no play for me here, but if I had to go one way or the other, I think I'd take the points of New Mexico State.
I mean, no one's beaten them by 30 yet. That's not exactly murderer's row. Nevada's probably the best team they've played so far.
But
it won't stay true for much longer.
New Mexico State in years past would have found a way to lose by 30 to anybody.
40.
Yeah, exactly. I'm taking the 32 points. The model thinks it should only be 28, so it's got an edge there. Jared, you talked about the letdown spot. The model doesn't consider that, but I like that angle as well. New Mexico State's been a profitable team if you just blindly backed them. I backed them in that first week, and that wasn't a good idea, but they are, I think, 3-2 against the spread, and they're 5 games so far. So they are a team that is better than we thought they would be. A lot of the early season stuff goes off projections, returning talent, et cetera. They got a couple of transfers in who are actually not bad. So they actually have some talent there, not a ton, obviously, but more than they had before. Before they were just a barren desert, and they've actually got a couple guys who can play. So I like them to keep it close at Nevada. And so I'm taking the 32 there, official pick with New Mexico State. And that wraps us up. Another episode of Picks with the Professor. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, rate and review. We appreciate those. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.